I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Listing under consent agenda is a group of items to be acted on with a single motion and vote. This agenda is designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters by City Council. The Mayor will ask the citizen or council member who wishes to have any specific item removed from the consent agenda for discussion. Either the public or a council member may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda at that time, prior to the council's vote. First item is the approval of the work session and regular meeting minutes for February 23rd, 2021. B, approval of expenditures voucher of March 9th, 2021. C, approval of a renewal hotel and restaurant liquor license for the Farm Bistro Cortez LLC DBA, the Farm Bistro, located at 34 West Main Street, Cortez. D, approval of renewal and hotel and restaurant liquor license for the Wiggling Pig LLC DBA, the Wiggling Pig, located at 44 West Main, Cortez. And C, E, approval of the airport grant application for federal assistance, SF-424. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'd like to make an addition.
Okay.
Sir. I'd like to add action on the safe reopening of council to the public.
Where would you like that included?
Business?
Yeah, new business. Do we want to do it first as new business?
Can it only go in the consecutive order? Can it only go in consecutive order? Like it would be new business letter or whatever. The very end.
We can't hear you, Linda.
Should be under new business or other items of business.
Let's put it under F for new business. Item F.
Councilman Dobry, can you restate your addition?
I would like to add as F under new business, just action on the safe reopening of council meetings to the public.
Having people in public or people come in person.
Oh, okay.
Did you make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition of F reopening, with the addition of F to new business, reopening of council meetings to the public.
Second.
Medina,
Aye.
Dawsey,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Huckins, Lucero,
Aye.
Lazy.
Aye. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is presentation. Item A is police presentation by AXON Enterprise Incorporated.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. The police department is going to present to council here a little bit later on regarding body on camera program, our Taser program, and a interview room recording system. I've invited AXON Enterprises and Claudia Mendiola with AXON to give you guys a little presentation of what AXON has to offer the city of Cortez and the police department. So I'll turn it over to Claudia. Thank you, Claudia, for being here.
My pleasure. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for having me today. Is everybody able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. So I'd like to just introduce myself quickly first. My name is Claudia Mendiola. I've been with AXON for just shy of 3 years, and I help represent the business from a video solution side. That means really anything as far as body-worn cameras, in-car systems, drone systems, interview rooms, ultimately helping our goal really to help remove the very typical data silos that law enforcement experiences with our solutions. I'd like to, if it's okay with you, share my screen. Would it be okay if I went ahead and shared my screen?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Excellent, thank you. All right. All right, so again, just speaking to, in general, the body-worn camera deployment, the CorePLUS Police Department is obviously one of the pioneers with body-worn cameras. This is not a new solution to them. However, AXON as a vendor is a new vendor to them from a body cam perspective. Today, in working with CorePLUS PD, they are looking into a new body-worn camera program through AXON and also looking to update their CEWs, which are Taser weapons. Now, the benefit, and today we're dealing with a very unique climate with the recent legislation that has passed. So it's very important to kind of talk about some of the differences in the vendors out there, because truly there are many different types of cameras on the market. That said, I want to just tell you a little bit about AXON's background and how we differentiate ourselves from some of our competition. First and foremost, our key goal is truly the transparency, not only for law enforcement, for the community alike. The key focus here is that AXON supports over 7,500 agencies worldwide, over 52 in major cities, 5 state police, and in Colorado specifically, 131 of the approximate 246 agencies are currently utilizing AXON's platform, which means not only the Taser weapons, body-worn cameras, but ultimately the digital evidence management, really where all of that digital evidence will live. Of those that are not yet on AXON's platform, over 60% today are currently in project or quote reviews with AXON. So really the key here is that you have an enormous network for law enforcement to work with, share digital evidence, etc. Now, alternatively, just as a side note here on the back end, we also support over 600 prosecutor offices. AXON provides free access to all of our prosecutors to evidence.com. And I keep using that term, and I'll tell you a little bit about what that means in a moment. Basically, what that means is that all municipalities, sheriff's office has the ability to really send their evidence with a click of a button. Long gone are the times of burning to consumables, DVDs, flash drives, and hand carrying them to the prosecutor. Now everything is done through the cloud in a highly secure environment. And what that really means is that it reduces quite a bit of administrative workload for the officers and also provides a very clean chain of custody through this process. Just as a quick side note before I kind of talk to you a little bit about the infrastructure, I do like to just mention some of the agencies that are currently utilizing AXON here in Colorado today. If at any point there are any references needed, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to provide the points of contact. So just a kind of a quick high level on AXON before I get into this lovely chart here is that AXON has almost 30 years focused in law enforcement technology. You may have originally recognized us as Taser International. We are the only manufacturer of Tasers worldwide. Are you okay with sound here? Just want to make sure.
Yes, we can hear it. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So 30 years in law enforcement technology, that means a lot to us. We've got a lot of competition out there where you're working with a very, very large conglomerate company with many different focuses in technology. And so the question is, how is my deployment going to be supported? Am I going to receive the type of return on investment that I'm putting in? What kind of training is going to be provided? So I want to just kind of share with you that process with us. First and foremost, AXON developed evidence.com as a means of removing those traditional data silos that law enforcement sees between records management, CAD systems, evidence management. Evidence.com, which is basically designated by this cloud here in the center, has the ability to communicate not only with the body cameras that CorePLUS PD is looking at deploying, but the Taser weapons will communicate directly with it. Interview rooms, in-car systems, and even third-party evidence can live here. So if there is an investigation of some sort, CCTV can live here. If you have a homicide, you've got thousands of digital images that can live here, which is enormously important because today, when you're managing 3 different solutions as CorePLUS PD is currently managing, they are managing data in 3 different locations. And as you know, anytime we move that data, it breaks that chain of custody. So our goal here is really to have everything centralized for the agency. Now, not only does this solution communicate with the law enforcement officers and command staff as necessary, but as I mentioned, it communicates very easily with the prosecutors. And today, in the climate that we're dealing with, we are also able to push evidence or push data to the media. I'll just kind of share a quick example. Recently worked with the chief. They had a DUI type environment where there was a complaint made by the subject. It created some tension in the community. And so the chief was able, he had deployed the AXON Body 3 cameras several months earlier, was able to actually push the video out while maintaining chain of custody and audit trail. And what it did was not only dispel that complaint, but also resolve some of the tension in that community. So we've really designed this solution to support not only the public's best interest, but also the law enforcement best interest. And then alternatively, of course, we also work very seamlessly with CAD systems, RMS systems, and different applications. Any questions for me so far in just the general infrastructure or what makes AXON different? Okay.
I don't think so. But keep going.
Okay, thank you.
You have a question?
Just a
I
quick,
guess,
Yes, we have one question.
How does it do it in areas then, like with sinking, where we have a lot of areas in the community where there's no cell? Oh, well, this is just city limits. So never mind.
okay, are you sure? Please ask questions. I definitely want it to be collaborative, and I want to make sure even if something, this is kind of a new language for everybody. So please ask the questions. I know this is kind of where I live and what I understand. So as an average citizen today, I've learned a lot just working with law enforcement and working in this technology. So ask any questions that you have. So just to kind of continue on, one of the key differences here is our competition, the vendors out there where you can buy a camera on Amazon today or through someone like Motorola. Many of my competitors have really sort of piecemealed their solutions through acquisitions. And so oftentimes the challenge is that even though they claim to have redaction, it's technically a third party that is renamed as that company. And so anytime we are moving that evidence from where it was ingested and stored to a redaction tool, we're breaking that chain of custody. And so truly, AXON is the only solution that provides a complete holistic solution from ingestion on the body cameras or the tasers or the in-car systems, all the way through the sharing with the prosecutors or public records requests in that case. Now, the technology itself has a couple of key benefits. I like to mention this because I am familiar with Senate Bill 217 and some of the language around that, and also some of the liability that is placed in an officer's hands to activate his or her camera in any situation, even a critical event where muscle memory may not be to double tap the chest. So I want to mention that the deployment that's in consideration by Cortez PD includes our signal technology. This technology is very much in alignment with SB 217 in the sense that it provides automatic recording triggers with several different types of features. So a good example would be, we will be installing a unit in each one of the patrol vehicles that will actually turn the recording on that camera if the vehicle reaches a certain speed threshold. It will have a crash sensor. It can be associated with the light bar, sirens, electronic gun rack. Really anything with a charge can be associated with creating that recording session. So if an officer gets in his vehicle, it's a critical response, hits 75 miles per hour, that camera can be set to start recording. The other benefit is that it also sends out a signal to activate any other responding AXON cameras within about a 50-foot radius. So if you do have an environment where there are multiple officers responding, or you have another municipality that has AXON cameras that's providing backup, you have the potential with a multi-camera point of view. Now, secondarily, the same technology is part of that center weapon, that Taser 7 that you're seeing right here in the center. This is the Taser weapon that's currently in consideration by Cortez PD. This is AXON's first smart weapon. It's been in rotation for about 2.5 years. It has that same signal embedded into that technology. So a good example is in a de-escalation. Let's say that we're responding to a domestic and an officer releases the safety on that de-escalation tool. It is going to automatically start the recording for that officer and again, send out any signal to activate any responding cameras in that 50-foot radius. Now, from a Taser perspective, and I'll veer off a little bit from this technology for a moment, we are looking at upgrading Cortez PD's Tasers. Their current weapons are meeting the end of useful life period. Anytime we are out of that 5-year useful life for any kind of electronic component, we are 2 times less likely to have a successful deployment. Today, in particular, in the climate that we're in, it is crucial to have a de-escalation tool in place that is going to be effective. And this particular weapon has a 91% effective rate in thick weather clothing. So jackets, puffy coats, et cetera, that we experience in cold weather climates. We've redesigned the probes, we've redesigned the technology, and we've also redesigned the battery solution on it. I'll talk a little bit about that on the back end. And then lastly, with regards to the signal technology is the sidearm unit. A little bit harder to see here. It's a small unit adhered or bracketed to the exterior of the holster. Anytime a firearm is unholstered, that is going to trigger that recording on the camera. So again, very much in compliance with SB 217 and ensuring that we have a recording in just about every environment. I do want to mention also that some of the other features that are in consideration here with this deployment include officer location when recording and real-time alerts. We've really moved away from a very traditional standard body camera to more of an officer safety device. This unit is going to, because the officers are patrolling alone, and we're finding that quite a bit now, especially in small city agencies, this is going to allow for Chief Knuckles, if it's 2 in the morning and he has an officer responding to a domestic and he has released that safety on his Taser, his camera turns on, it's going to alert Chief Knuckles and potentially a dispatcher or other individuals within the PD that their officer's camera was activated through gunshot detection or a Taser activation. And it also will identify that officer's location. If they've moved away from their vehicles and they're in a foot pursuit, it immediately allows them to identify where they are. And it also provides the ability to live stream in. So if it's 2 a.m., Chief Knuckles would have the ability to then see and hear exactly what his officer was experiencing. Any questions on some of these features that are exclusive to AXON solution?
I have one question, on the sidearm, is it difficult to retrofit the, existing sidearm holsters for this new device?
Not typically. So we are really compatible with about 96% of holsters. If there's something out there that is unusual, I definitely ask you to bring that to light so we can double check. We have two different types of retrofitting. We can do a bracketed mount or an adhesive mount. And in the case of a unique holster style, the adhesive mount has been successful. But again, happy to check that against our list and ensure we're a good fit there.
Thank you.
Of course, my pleasure.
I have a quick
All
question
right.
for you. I was going to
Please.
say, on the warranty and stuff, like you said, with the, but there's a lot of blind spots around here on technology, like cell phones and everything. Does that affect them at all?
So good question. So the camera itself operates a 64 gig battery life, lithium battery, and these cameras are designed to meet a 12 to 14 hour battery life in recording or pre-event buffering mode. So the LTE coverage should not affect the general recording of the camera. However, the respond feature, the feature with the location services and the live streaming functionality, that is an LTE connection. So if an officer is in a location where cellular connectivity is poor or does not do well in that region, it is a possibility that in that location, this real-time alert or live stream may not function.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. And just to kind of speak to the battery life, since we just talked a little bit about battery life, this is actually very important to talk about because it is part of the program. Any technology really in consistent use with the wear and tear in the type of job that we're seeing here, as well as just the weather elements, will start to degrade, just like our cell phones do today. And we do typically start to see a battery degradation at about 2.5 to 3 years. So this program that is in consideration by Cortez PD does provide a complete technology refresh at 2.5 and 5 years. So with the agency looking at 30 cameras, for example, at 2.5 years, they will receive 30 brand new cameras and the docking stations for offloading that digital evidence. And then we do that again at the very end of the term. So 30 brand new cameras again. Now, if at that point we've released new technology, the AXON Body 4, for example, there is the possibility that Cortez PD can opt in for those newest technology features. The benefit, of course, is that you are paying for these future cameras at today's rate, whereas typically you see over a 5-year term, probably about 15% inflation. And it also ensures that they are always meeting policy standards and shift life. Any questions for me on what we've covered so far? Okay, so I want to talk, I want to kind of move into the Taser side because what we're looking at here is a bundle of the body-worn camera program and the Taser program. And the benefit to deploying these two solutions together is that it provides a 31% discount. So it's a heavily discounted bundle, which brings all of your technology up to speed, puts everything on a singular quote and a singular invoice. Everything follows the same warranty period, so it's a really nice, clean deployment. Now, from the Taser side, just some key points here before I end my time here that you've allotted for me, is that not only have we made significant improvements to the Taser weapon, but one of the key differentiators is that we've moved away from those consumable batteries, the batteries that require you to just throw away and budget each year for new batteries for your officers. We have now moved to a dock and walk environment with the batteries on the Tasers. That means these Taser weapon batteries typically are docked every 30 to 45 days. When that time frame comes and the battery is docked, all of the firing logs are automatically uploaded into evidence.com, our cloud-based solution. Historically, Cortez PD has had to pool each weapon individually sync them with a sync cable, and manually upload each one of the weapons individually. So this feature alone will save about 4 to 5 man-hours per year, per officer per year. So really great improvement there. In addition to that, the Taser 7 is going to, from a deployment standpoint with this program, is going to really provide a complete solution. It's really, again, historically, just to kind of reiterate, Cortez PD would have to budget for cartridges, budget for training cartridges, inert cartridges, in order to keep their officers certified on the Taser weapons. This is really a one line item purchase. It is all of your deliverables, the rechargeable battery, the weapons themselves, the holsters, as well as the docking stations for the full 5-year program. So that means if Cortez PD has a deployment of one of their duty cartridges, we send them the replacement. There's no more need to budget on an annual basis for these sort of surprise costs or consumables. In addition to that, on the body camera side, we do have, as I mentioned, the 2.5 and 5-year refresh, unlimited storage. So as we approach SB 217, we're looking at what that's going to mean for retention and storage of this evidence, and what is the length required for even a routine traffic stop or a minor interaction. And so this is an unlimited storage program. We provide a 5-year, no questions asked warranty, and this applies to body cams and tasers. This is a very big benefit. That means if you can provide the hardware, we replace it. If it gets pulled off and run over by a vehicle, we replace it. If it falls out of your hand on accident and it doesn't seem to function properly, we replace it. It's a very comprehensive warranty for the body cameras and the tasers. Now, 2 just quick features I wanted to mention briefly because they are, again, sort of relevant to SB 217 before I wrap up and allow for some Q&A, is the redaction tools. And so what we're seeing today is a lot of concern about how to manage some of the influx of public record requests. And so AXON developed a redaction tool. And if you're not familiar with redaction, historically, when redacting, let's say a 1-hour video, that typically required about 4 to 5 hours of redaction time because of the need to go screen by screen throughout the length of the video. What AXON has developed and what Cortez PD will have through this particular deployment is artificial intelligence that will actually go in and seek out faces, MDTs, license plates, and do much of that redaction for the redaction team. So really they can click start, walk away, go to lunch, go to sleep. The computer can go into sleep mode and it is doing the work for them. Now, of course, they'll have to take a quick glance through, make sure it's not redacting the subject's face or maybe the reflection of someone's face in a mirror or in a window. But the solution really brings redaction from a 1-hour video to 4 to 5 of redaction to a 1-hour video to less than an hour of redaction. So again, a completely integrated tool that will track every touch made on this digital evidence, from ingestion to building of cases, redacting to sharing with the DA. It's truly all managed very holistically. Any questions for me on the solution overall or how we're different from other programs out there?
I have one question. I understand the technology in recording when using a taser, but has there been any change in the effectiveness of the taser, the number of bolts that's delivered when the trigger is pulled?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, I have my colleague, Kara Uslek, on the call. She's the Taser expert. We made significant improvements to the Taser weapon. Is it okay if I give her a moment just to speak to that, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. And thank you, council members and mayor, for allotting us this time.
To answer your question, yes, so we have made significant improvements to the Taser weapon itself. So in addition to adding that signal technology into the weapon, we've redesigned weapon cartridges. It's taken the weapon from being about 72% effective with a dual shot weapon to over 91% effective. It's greatly increased effectiveness in close quarters. So when you're having those types of closer scenarios where you're actually having to fire the weapon. And then the weapon itself, in terms of the electrical output, it's actually emitting anywhere from 22 to 40 pulses per second. So we've actually increased the electrical components inside to be a smarter weapon, to be able to read the connection and adjust how heavily it's outputting that electrical current in response to how well those probes have made contact.
Thank you.
This is Green, the city attorney, and I have a couple questions about the cloud portion. You talked about an automatic redaction tool. If you wanted clean copies of the videos, those would be available too?
Of course, absolutely. So anytime, any touch that we're making, whether we're making annotation notes, a marker, a clip, or a redaction, the parent file is never compromised, and every single touch made on that evidence is tracked through a clean audit trail. So parent file is never compromised through any of the steps in evidence.com.
Okay, and I'm talking about use in civil cases, not criminal cases here. So, and then the storage time is whatever time we set on these things. So if we want to keep the videos, the records for 3 years, which I think is our current policy, that's not going to be a problem.
Correct. So evidence.com is highly customizable. It sort of comes to you as a clean slate, if you will. So if Cortez PD deploys that, we'll go through a training with them to actually build out their retention policies. So as an example, if you had 30-day routine traffic stop, 90-day DUI, they would build in each one of those retentions and save them. And that way, when our system communicates with either the CAD system or an officer inputs information into one of our applications as far as the call disposition, it will automatically associate that retention length with that video evidence. And then it will also queue it for deletion when it hits that time frame. So a good example is Chief Knuckles may log in and it might say, "Good evening, Chief Knuckles. These 10 videos are up for system deletion." He might take a quick review and say, "Okay, these are all routine traffic. Oh wait, this one turned into a DUI and a drug investigation. We need to retag it." The others will be queued for deletion 7 days later, but the system does do the work for you and will continually purge and move through that evidence. We do, of course, expect that maybe 7 to 10% will be kept indefinitely as well.
The reason I'm asking is on the advice of some attorneys that have represented us in civil litigation. They're recommending we keep everything for 2 to 3 years based on the statute of limitations for litigation, 1983 lawsuits, civil litigation in state courts against officers. And I'm just wanting to make sure that this is all available should somebody decide to sue us, because I don't really want to go tell the cop I don't have what proves he didn't do it, because it got erased automatically. And that's what my big concern with the system is, to make sure we have that available.
Certainly. I have spoken to agencies outside of ours that have lost evidence, and it is detrimental. So I understand your concern. If your basic time frame is going to follow that everything at minimum stays for 3 years, then when we build those retention policies, we'll follow exactly that guideline, and nothing will purge until it hits that 3 year. And please know that as items hit that 3 year term, it will never delete that evidence without alerting you. And that means alerts by text, by email. When you log in, it will alert you. So this is not a solution which will just automatically start deleting evidence without several alerts. This 3 year timeframe is a non-issue because this is an unlimited storage capability. So even if you kept everything indefinitely, that would be okay.
Ma'am, I'm going to sleep a whole lot better tonight knowing that. Thank you very much for taking the load off.
My pleasure. Not to worry, not to worry. I'm glad you asked.
This may
All
be a
right.
question that Chief Knuckles would have to answer, but do you know what our the partner agencies that you regularly respond with? She mentioned the feature that if there's officers from multiple agencies and they have the same system are responding. I guess I'm wondering if the sheriff's office, the maintenance marshal, if they use a similar system or the same system.
I know the sheriff's office is using AXON body cam, and I'm pretty sure that Mancus is as well.
I can actually pull a report if you'd like, just to see. I can follow back up with Chief Knuckles with all of the agencies currently utilizing evidence.com, and I can also confirm some of the surrounding regions. I know, Chief Knuckles, you've spoken to a few of the regional areas, Montrose County, Telluride Marshals, et cetera. I'm happy to share that data with you. I'll do a little research and follow back up.
Thank you.
So you mentioned Senate Bill 217. Just to check that your technology and the cloud storage will meet the reporting requirements in a searchable format to continue the funding.
And I'm so sorry, the quality of the audio was a little compromised. I apologize. I heard you ask the question about alongside SB 217, was it the format in which we record on evidence.com that you asked about?
Correct. So I'm just looking to verify that the format that all of the evidence and everything captured will satiate the need for SB 217. For the reference.
Certainly. So first and foremost, all of our recordings are in an MP4 format. So nice general format, easy to work with. Evidence.com is not restricted to MP4 format in the sense that if you have CCTV or outside digital evidence, that can also be pulled in and ingested by evidence.com. But it is a nice general format that is easily played back. If you choose to download it for any other reason, we always recommend keeping it in evidence.com because that maintains that clean chain of custody and audit trail, but it is in an MP4 format and compatible with the SB 217.
Yeah, as we're saving, police officer time, in one area, I don't want to offset it in another area and having to convert files and such, so. Thank you.
Oh, yes. We have seen that where an agency in transitioning to AXON is with a solution that uses a proprietary format, and that can be really overwhelming. And oftentimes a vendor will charge heavily to convert that data and move that over, which is unfortunate. So what I will say is with the solution that Cortez PD has today, if there is any critical evidence that is being maintained, that can technically be pulled over into evidence.com and uploaded in sort of a large file upload. But otherwise, very easy format. And just as another side note, just to mention this since I didn't bring it up before, evidence.com is both CJUST compliant as well as FedRAMP compliant. So we do follow the highest level of security when it comes to our data security.
This is Councilwoman Yazzie, and I have a question about how long, like what extent of training you offer for these new systems to, what would be offered to our police department?
Sure, and just to make sure I understood, you asked about the training that would be provided, correct?
Yeah, what type of training and how long would it be to get everybody acquainted with this new technology?
Absolutely, such an important question to ask. So first of all, at the time of deployment, if the order is signed, what AXON typically has is probably about a 4 to 5 week lead time on delivery of equipment. And upon delivery, we will actually fly out and do a full professional services in-house So we will go with go through some of the physical setup. We'll go through working through some of the building out of the retention policies, maybe some training on the redaction tools. And then we also like to allocate some of that day to training your general officer base on the ins and outs of the physical camera and maybe managing their own evidence. Now, that's one day. So we don't wash our hands and just say, okay, ready to go. You're on your own. I want to let you know that you also have a dedicated account manager, like myself on the body cam side, like Kara on the Taser side. We work typical business hours. So I work 7 to 4, Kara works 8 to 5. And I have enough technological experience to be dangerous. If it goes above my pay grade, there is an occasion where I'll bring in my engineers or my tech support teams. But you do have us during typical business hours. Cortez PD will also have what is called a customer success manager. That's someone that's going to proactively reach out to you. So we might be here more reactively, but the customer success manager might say, hi, Chief Knuckles, you have redaction assistant. We want to make sure that you're well trained on it. Can we set up a time to do a 30-minute training with your evidence team? Or if there's a question about the Respond technology, we can set aside some time to do that. So they're very much proactively reaching out. And then beyond that, we have 24/7, 365 US-based support on a very small occasion. Overnight, depending on the time of year, it will default to our UK office or Australia office. And then alternatively, we also have something called AXON Academy, which is a great self-study portal. We actually just really enhanced it. I think you'll like the experience. So if an officer prefers to self-study or and maybe can't remember, it's 2 a.m, they're like, I can't remember what Claudia said about redaction, they can go in and really search any tool, any solution, and that will provide video tutorials for them to learn from. So it is an extremely well-supported deployment.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know I've taken you beyond the time you allocated to me, so I want to be respectful of that. I'm here and I'm happy to stay on to answer any other questions. Happy to help.
I just have one quick question. The technology that you have and everything, as maybe Chief can answer this one, is the computer system we have right now, is it capable for this program, or do we have to add another different software?
No, what we have currently is sufficient to run this.
This is a very, so, and just to sort of back up your answer there, Chief Knuckles, I apologize to step in there. Evidence.com is cloud-based, so internet-based, and really the only network considerations come around the offloading of evidence, so supporting that docking station. And it's pretty basic, Ethernet connection and power cord for each of the docking stations. And then we do see some dynamic IP addresses. So each bay within those 8-bay docking stations has its own brain, if you will. And so we would want to make sure that we have dynamic or DHCP IP addresses, but that's pretty standard. And I believe we did look at the network considerations on that.
Okay, thank you. Because the only reason I ask, because I'm not computer savvy on that. So.
That believe me, I always ask for help when that comes to play as well. So if you're interested in seeing the network considerations, if you're in that part of it, I'm happy to share those with Chief Knuckles. That's perfectly fine.
Thank you. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation, the AXON representatives. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is public hearings. First item is ordinance number 1285, series 2021. City Attorney Mike Green and Director of Finance Kelly Cuskey. Good evening.
Good evening, is Ms. Koski on? Or? This, I believe, as I recall, is, second reading or first reading. It's the second reading, so it's also a public hearing on an ordinance to authorize the city to purchase audits for, through 2026 would be the date you'd be getting the 2025 audit is my memory. What we need to have is an ordinance because the charter requires it for purchases of longer than 3 years. So staff recommends, Ms. Koski has spoken to me several times about this. These folks are very eager to do your audits. There aren't a whole lot of other people out there eager to do your audits. The benefit to having these folks for this extended period of time is they will be familiar with your setup. They will have helped you correct some of the errors and get things through. It's my understanding they've already started on 17 and 18. And so this would get you through, as I recall, 19 through, your ordinance around
25.
2025 is what my memory serves, yes. So that was correct. So staff recommends approval of this ordinance after a public hearing. And any questions?
Marlene, do you have any questions? Okay, any questions from the public? I hear none. Could I have a motion on this item?
We should make sure that there's no hands raised regarding this specific
Yeah,
item.
because do we have to open it for public comment?
Are there any hands open, raised? Okay. Okay, there's no public comment. Now can I have a motion on this item, please?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve on final reading ordinance number 1285, series 2021, approving a multi-year contract for auditing services 2019 through 2025.
Second.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Huckins.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Lucero.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Lady.
Aye. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the quasi judicial. New retail marijuana cultivation license for Chronic Therapy Cortez. City Clerk Linda Smith and City Attorney Mike Green.
Thank you. This is similar to the one we did for the grow and cultivation, the Dewey Sisters on North Broadway. We just moved to South Broadway. This is down in what's referred to the old Straumsted's, the old That's a Pizza, That's a Pasta building. These folks finally made it through their, what do you call it, their vetting with CDOT for access and other things in the highway. The reason they're coming into you is cultivation license is separate from a retail sales license. And originally, when we had set this up, we had a distance requirement that if you had two different LLCs with two different licenses on the same property, they wouldn't make the distance requirements, and so you couldn't have the two businesses together. What these folks did was they're able to say that one LLC owns both. They're on the same property, and so that part of it is simple. Staff recommends approval based on those requirements. There are some other requirements which need to be held in the quasi-judicial hearing. The applicant, citizens can testify. They need to be certain people which are outlined in the ordinances which are attached to you. They either need to be residents of the city, property owners of the city, or managers or owners of business in the city. Not just anyone can speak at this about this license. You have to make certain findings, which at this point in time, I think staff can make some recommendations to help you with that. The application, these are found at 4215 A down through 810. The application is complete and signed by the applicant. The applicant has paid the application fee. Staff finds that the application complies with all the requirements of this article, Colorado Retail Marijuana Code and the State Licensing Authority rules and regulations. Staff has not found any material misrepresentations in the application. Staff has found that this proposed establishment complies with the zoning regulations, and it does conform to the distance requirements set forth in both the land use code and what I call the blue book, the Cortez City Code. The facts and evidence adduced by staff as a result of its investigation, as well as any other facts and pertinent matters affecting the qualifications of the applicant for the conduct of the type of business proposed. Staff has found nothing to detract from or cause to recommend that you deny the application. These folks have been in the business selling, and so this is an expansion of the business in Cortez. As far as other facts pertinent to the type of license approval. There's number 8 doesn't apply in this situation. They've never had a license that adversely affected public health or safety of the immediate neighborhood. They are current, as I understand it, on all taxes, fees, sales tax assessments, etc. This application complies with all of the sections of the Colorado Constitution, code of regulations, revised statutes, etc. The staff in B finds no reason to deny this application for good cause, and so recommends that not happen. Staff does not have any reasonable conditions upon the license approval, except that the license not issued until the building is complete and it has a CO. You merely approving it tonight, so the clerk could issue the local approval of the state license once the building gets a CO. And the rest of it, I'm not, does not apply, other than its procedures it will do if you approve it tonight. What we would need to do now is open the public testimony. People would need to be sworn in by the clerk. They would need to state their name, their address, and how they are able to speak, i.e. are they a resident of the city? Do they own or manage a business in the city? Or do they own real estate in the city? Staff recommends approval of the license. This was a process that we went through with the chronic therapy, and they were more than compliant, or more than cooperative. Once we got down to how we could make it work.
And this is one where we already approved the plans, like the building and parking and the land use.
It's my memory that yes, we did. There was a site plan review. This would be up in what I would call the north area. They don't own the south parking lot, the gravel parking lot, but they own the little parking lot and land to the north, which goes towards the Cortez sign, I think. And so they have enough room. They'll be able to have adequate parking. It meets all the land use code requirements, as I recall. They ran into some questions with CDOT, was my understanding, because that's an interesting place if you ever bought pizza from down below to try and pull out up the highway when traffic is heavy. So they had to work some things out with CDOT.
There's some question about the fire hydrants in that area. Has that been resolved?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, sir.
Okay.
So we could open up the public hearing part of this for testimony from
Yes.
anybody.
We'd like to open this up for public comment.
Is there a formal thing we have to say for
Pardon?
positive? Isn't
Isn't there a formal statement we have to make for quasi judicial?
We should, but, it's not required. So everybody understands that this is a quasi judicial matter, and if anybody's talked to you about this before this evening, or if you've gone out and looked at the site, or you've done things that would give you evidence that you didn't receive into the, through the record tonight, you need to disclose that and perhaps recuse yourself from participation.
Okay,
I see no hands raised. I see no hands raised on Zoom.
okay.
We close the public meeting and motion and approve.
Okay, can I have a motion on this item?
Somebody would need to move to approve the application.
I will make a motion to move to approve the application for a retail marijuana cultivation facility for chronic therapy, Cortez LLC, doing business as Chronic Cultivation, located at 1020 South Broadway, Cortez.
Second.
Aubrey,
Aye.
Hawkins,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Medina,
Aye.
Leahy.
Aye. Thank you. Under new business, first item is ordinance number 1286, series 2021. City Attorney Mike Green and Chief of Police Gordon Nichols.
This is, we just had a presentation on what the ordinance is about. What this is, not to steal the chief's thunder, but it's an integrated long-term purchase of mixed goods and services. The cloud and the tasers and the cameras and the support and everything. So because of this, the service contract component, we felt it would be good in multi-year to have an ordinance enacted for this. And so just like we did the previous ordinance for the audits, we would be setting, you would make a motion if you agreed to approve this ordinance. And to set it for public hearing in, I don't remember when, March 23rd. Staff recommends this, from my limited part of it. One of the biggest things, if you're looking at civil litigation, is to have evidence to prove you didn't do it, or that it didn't happen the way it's been said. And this looks like a huge step forward for the city to have this evidence. As a former elected district attorney, this should make the DA's life so much easier and sweeter, and the cop's life, because there's no CDs getting lost, getting made, getting burned. And we have a record of everything we do. Go, Chief.
Thank you again, Mayor, Council. Yeah, the presentation by AXON for presence, it's a pretty robust program. The situation the police departments found themselves in is the Taser X26s that we're currently fielding are past their, well past their end of life. Our body worn camera program has been sufficient. We currently have 18 cameras that officers use to check in and out when they come on duty. Like I said, that was sufficient with Senate Bill 2217, which is the Enhanced Law Enforcement Integrity Act that was passed last year, has mandated that the agency will provide body-worn cameras for all certified officers. So all certified officers includes me, my patrol lieutenants. So technically by 217, if somebody comes into my office to talk about law enforcement or anything, I'm gonna have to activate a body-worn camera and record that conversation. You know, that's what the law says. You could probably get into the weeds and say, you know, that 18 cameras is sufficient, you know, as long as an officer that's on duty has that on. But in a critical incident, if I had to call out all of my officers to take care of something, they all will have to have a camera. So with 217, the police department's finding ourselves needing 30 cameras, just to protect ourselves. Currently, out of the 18 body-worn cameras that we are currently fielding, 11 of them are due to be replaced or upgraded. 5 of them are inoperable right now. So we're finding ourselves kind of in a situation with the body-worn camera program. And then the interview room for detectives, it's where they conduct their investigative interviews with suspects. You know, that system is at its end of life and is no longer being supported by the manufacturer. It's working, but if something goes wrong, there's no support. So we're finding ourselves, you know, needing to comply by July of 23 with 217. Our tasers are out of date and need to be replaced. We can purchase new cameras, but if we need to, I'm thinking that if we need to add 12 more cameras to our program, so we have 30, we're finding ourselves in a situation where we might look at one sole source and take care of everything that's really out of date, end of life, and get us up and running. I mean, it's prior to when we have to, but that allows us to work through any issues that come along with new technology and get trained, and we'll be up and running by 2023. You know, Cortez Police Department fielded body-worn cameras and tasers early on, before body-worn cameras were popular. The police department understood that transparency and de-escalation was important. So I think this just shows that we're being proactive. If we can go with this program, we can get up and running before we have to. We're not waiting and jumping through hoops to meet the deadline of Senate Bill 217. Along with the programs we're running now, Claudia spoke of data silos. We're the epitome of data silos at the police department. The interview room recording is kept on a hard drive within the detective's office. When they do an interview, the admin assistant has to go stick a thumb drive into the hard drive, download that clip, take it back to her desk. If the public defender or the district attorney needs anything, she's then burning CDs, trying to get things. So it's a little archaic. It works, but there's a lot of room for error, and there's no audit trail. There's nothing that, I mean, this disc disappears. There's nothing that says it was taken and transferred to where it needed to go. Our Taser 26 is an AXON product, so it's running on evidence.com. So the Taser, the evidence, the firing logs and stuff like that are kept on evidence.com. In our body-worn camera program, we have servers in another room at the police department where that evidence is, that digital evidence is stored. So we have this conglomerate of storage. And like I said, it just opens up, you know, question of how this evidence being transferred and stuff. If we could go to a single source, cloud-based, we can take care of all of our needs with one vendor, store all of our evidence in one central location, and really streamline the process that we're currently in. I think she did a pretty good explaining the program. I don't need to go into that. I just wanted to let you guys know kind of where we are as far as the need. That's about it. So, you guys have any questions?
So this isn't in your budget. So how much, I guess I'm unclear about how much money exactly you're asking for in 2021, because I see there's a breakdown for each year, so is it these two combined, the 69 plus the 14,000, or is it this whole 363,000 in 1 year? It's on page
Yes, so
70.
it's going to be the 2 1-year figures. So for the CorePLUS program, which is the body worn camera and the Taser 7, first year will be 69,206. The AXON interview room would be 14,822. And then those other amounts could be budgeted, you know, within departments, you know, the detective division and stuff. And to talk about the interview room, AXON will come in and build that as part of this. All new cameras, state-of-the-art cameras. I don't know a lot about cameras, but the cameras that we have now are old technology. These new cameras are supposed to be very clear. Everything stores to the cloud, like the Taser and AXON, so that evidence is kept in the same place. And currently, I think it can happen. It's a little bit cumbersome, but it's hard to for another officer or a supervisor to view an interview that's being conducted inside off the system that we have now. With AXON, you're able to log in and watch an interview if need be. So very robust solution for the police department, and you know, and I believe I've used AXON, the Tasers, of course, at the PD, the body cameras at the sheriff's office. Very good company, and as far as I'm concerned, you know, they're kind of the gold standard for law enforcement. And they are the only manufacturer for Tasers, so anywhere we buy a Taser, it comes from AXON. It just may be through a distributor, but they are really the only manufacturer for technology.
Councilwoman, I think there's, to get back to your question, and John can correct me if I'm wrong, you would be approving the multi-year amount in the ordinance, but the budget would be annually entered. So it's kind of a two-step here. You're approving $350,000 worth of purchases spread out over X number of years, 5 years. I'm sorry, the years this night has just been a bit. So it's a combo. But his budget for 2020 for this year would be amended to show additional expenditures the first year, and then each year thereafter there would be an amount budgeted.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I just want to have one more question about, like, so say you fire someone or they retire or they quit, is it easy for them to lose access to evidence.com then?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And with 30 cameras, each officer will have one assigned to them. And if an officer moves on to another agency or is terminated or anything, very easy to assign that camera to the replacement officer. So everything's really easy to switch over.
I had one question, Chief. With the new AXON body cameras, suppose there is like an auto accident and police officers were called to direct traffic and interview accident victims. They're required to put on a safety vest, and the safety vest might cover the body camera. Do you know the AXON system would alert the officer or someone that the body camera is obstructed? Maybe that's a question I should have asked the representatives.
I don't believe it has that technology. However, because we've had body-worn camera program for so long, the officers are well aware of them. So when they do get out and they're adjusting, they make sure. Can it happen? Yeah, but the officers are well aware of their cameras. They know the benefit in having them, so they keep them up and functioning. The cameras we have now have a lens that rotates, which we've found, and that would be another reason I would like to go away from the camera we have now. So you can move the lens up and down, and what I've heard from officers are in altercations and stuff, inevitably that lens gets hit, and so they're getting a video of the officer's chin or something because it's pointing up. Or they'll put a seatbelt on in a hurry and it will hit that lens. They're recording, but the lens is then twisted up. So that's kind of a function of the cameras that we're currently using that I would like to go away from and just get that forward view.
The new cameras have fixed lens.
Fixed lens and faces forward. It's not perfect. And I don't think there's a solution out there that is perfect for every situation. But I think if you can alleviate some of the pivoting of a lens and just have it facing forward, I think that helps.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one more. So looking at your 2021, or I guess the 2022 budget, would this come under administration budgeting or support services? It seems like a jump in 70,000 and in any of those budget items would be a big jump. Where do you see this line?
It's going to be a significant jump, and I would see the CorePLUS portion of this going under the patrol budget, and the interview room going under the detective's budget.
Okay, so being able to break that apart a little bit. Okay.
Even though some of the body-worn cameras were accounting for detectives, they too are going to fall under. They are a certified officer, but I think we could just put that CorePLUS under patrol. And keep the cameras in there.
And then it seems like since it's on the cloud, no change in FT or FTE needs, right?
No.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Worley, do you have any more questions?
I have a quick question here. This is for Senor Green. Why is this a public hearing?
It's an ordinance, sir, so at the next meeting, there would be a public hearing. Under the charter, multi-year contracts have to be by ordinance. They can't be by resolution or voice vote.
Okay, I just wanted to refresh myself there. Thanks.
And I got another financial aspect. Do we have a location to draw $84,028 from?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Any more questions? Can I hear a motion on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve on first reading ordinance number 1286, series 2020, regarding the purchase of items from AXON Enterprise Inc. Incorporated and set for public hearing on March 23rd, 2021.
Second.
She said series 2020 instead of 2021. So, okay, series 2021.
Should be 25.
Apologies.
And the second was for Robert.
Second.
Thank you. Rainey,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Medina,
Aye.
Hutchins,
Aye.
Josie,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye. Thank you. Next item under new business is the resolution number 8, series 2021, City Clerk Linda Smith.
Yes, council, your council approved ordinance 1283, series 2021 on second reading on February 23rd regarding the election question. And this is the next step in moving the election forward. As stated in the memo, council may set the election date on a Tuesday resolution. Council had an ordinance that was approved that we would set the date for June 8th. This resolution just sets the election in, in the next steps of setting the mail ballot, special elections, so that we can get the process moving forward, and getting the ballots ordered and getting all that process out. I will send council a calendar as soon as we get that all set up, so you can see the process of getting the ballots go out, how the election process moves, so that you guys can follow that. But staff recommends that we approve resolution number 8, series 2021, so that we can get this part of the process. Any questions?
Just to clarify, this is the election regarding the authorization of the allowing the city to be able to provide the fiber services.
Correct.
This does not mean that we are going to do it necessarily.
Correct.
It doesn't obligate you to, it just gives you the option to decide.
Yep, I just wanted to repeat that.
And when we get the all the ballots ready, the question will match your ordinance that you guys approved at the last meeting, exactly how you wrote it, and that will be the only thing that's on the ballot. Is that one question?
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 8, series 2021, authorizing a mail ballot election to be held on June 8, 2021.
Second.
Huckins,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Yazzie, Dobry,
Aye.
Medina,
Aye.
Lady.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 8 out-of-city water taps and pre-annexation agreement for property located at 26833 Road L, Montezuma County, as requested by Jared and Colette Wyatt. Director of Public Works, Phil Johnson.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. In the effort of saving bandwidth, I'm going to keep my camera off so we can converse. If that's okay.
Okay.
All right. As you're all aware, in the packet, we have an application for 8 out-of-city water taps. This is nothing new for us to provide out-of-city water taps, although this is somewhat different in that it's a subdivision of 8 lots. I'm going to go ahead and share the visual on this, if that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
And everyone, let me know when they can see that and if they need me to zoom that in some more. Does everybody see the image?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so here, this is Alamosa Road here where my stylist is, L Road, and then off to the right is Highway 145. This is the subject property, which is just north of Alamosa. As you can see, there are 8 lots carved out of the parcel. And the reason, you have the memo, and I really don't want to read the memo verbatim because I just wanted to articulate a couple of things about this. If you can see my stylus moving on the screen, there's a single family residence here right along Alamosa. And all of these the home up here in the upper right hand corner where the water line bisects, and all the other residential homes in the area are served by our water system currently. Our city limits travels west along Alamosa and then heads south right here at these where these residences stop on Rolling Road. But we still serve water to this single family residence, which is in the county, just due to proximity of water mains. Now, initially, the applicant approached Montezuma Water Company to have them service this area and, because of, we serve all these areas currently, and it's, our mains are basically bisects the property and then runs east-west on the southern portion of the parcel. So it made more sense for us to keep that in the city's distribution and service area. So I went and met with Steve, the general manager, forgive me, up at the Moundsville Water Company. And we agreed that, this would be beneficial for our water system with regards to keeping our water lines fresh, and then they don't have to extend their water mains quite so far. So, and typically what happens is, as is, the rule, whenever we sell an out-of-city water tap, it costs 50% more than what we sell in the city. And currently our rate is $5,844.30 for a 3/4 inch water tap in the city, and the multiplier calculates out to $8,766.45. The applicant has gone through the county process. I believe they met with the county again today, the planning department and the Board of County Commissioners, to get this subdivision approved, with the water service coming from the city, as well as they're accessing Alamosa Road, which is just north of Rolling Road there. That red line is what the road is. And they're actually working on complying with master streets planning, because we're having an intersection aligned with an unplanned development. So as far as we're concerned, internally, we have no issues with providing the water services. It's not going to impact or cause any undue harm for us to, meet the requirements of these 8 residential lots. And we are in support of moving this project forward and approving these out-of-city water taps. They will need to access Alamosa, which, because we don't have any road impact fees, all they'll really need is a right-of-way permit, and then have the design approved by, the access design, with turn radius, et cetera, by engineering, and then they'll build their subdivision road based on county standards. And as is the rule, they will also have to provide backflow prevention to protect themselves from and our system and our customers from any cross contamination that we do, and we do that with all in-city and out-of-city taps. The applicant has signed the out-of-city tap application, as well as a pre-annexation agreement that goes hand in hand with the out-of-city water taps, and so everything is really in order. They've agreed to the price, they've agreed to the pre-annexation, and staff is in full support of, supplying water to this subdivision and making this a successful project.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions from council?
Phil, this is Medina. Did you mention any fire hydrants, or is that not our jurisdiction?
No, that would be with Cortez Fire Protection District, and I do know that Chief Balfour has engaged this project and is okay with the radius of the cul-de-sac for turning around of emergency equipment. The main size is going to be our city minimum, which is 6 inches, which will support fire hydrants. And I do believe there are 1, if not 2, are being planned for installation. I know there's 1. But Chief Balfour, that falls within his, bailiwick, and he's on board with this.
Thank you.
This is Green. I have a question because I don't remember this coming up before in an out-of-town situation. How does the water get handled that gets used out of those hydrants for accountability for the city?
Well, when we have any hydrants in the city, we try to do an estimate based on flow if there's a big fire. Otherwise, it's just as an unaccounted for use, or unmetered but accounted for use of water. When we had the fire on Main Street, I think it was in 14 or 15, we were able to calculate how much water that used because the fire was so, it used a lot of water. So we were able to calculate water loss on tank drop. But with regards to exercising and flushing and the like, we have a factor, figured in for that, just as a matter of operation and maintenance of fire, the fire hydrants.
Any other questions? Worley, do you have any more questions?
No, I don't have any questions. He answered that one from the fire department.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Can I hear a motion on this item, please?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the application for a total of 8 3/4-inch out-of-city water taps and pre-annexation agreement for the property located at 26,833 Road L, as submitted by Jared and Colette Wyatt, with the stipulation that the applicant install approved backflow prevention devices for each water tap.
Joe
Aye.
Huckins,
Um,
Lucero,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Medina,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Slavy.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for a new full-time assistant chief of police at the police department. Chief of Police Vern Knuckles.
Again, good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, I'm coming before Council today to request an additional FTE at the police department so I can hire an assistant chief. When I interviewed with the city manager to get this position, I expressed or told him that my policing philosophy leans towards community policing and less of the traditional arrest and summons, things like that. I think as we see across the nation, that's kind of the direction that the United States is wanting to go. I got the position. The first thing that I did was talk to every employee in the agency to get a feel for the agency and see what was going on. As I spoke to the employees, there were a few things that seemed to be reoccurring and as some minor issues that kept coming to the top. That first 6 months or so, I just kind of stayed and observed the agency, trying to see how it was working and everything. I started noticing that the issues that were coming, that the employees brought to me that I saw reoccurring, I began to realize that it was due to the enormous management responsibilities that has been put on the patrol lieutenant and the detective lieutenant. When I first come to the police department in '96, the police department had an assistant chief, Russ Johnson. When Russ Johnson retired, Chief Lane turned that position into an administrative lieutenant position and give that to Daryl Hinton. When Daryl Hinton retired, Chief Lane restructured and put those extra responsibilities onto the patrol lieutenant and detective lieutenant, and those responsibilities are many. The patrol lieutenant currently manages the patrol division, which is a large division, 16 officers and 5 sergeants, the dispatch center, 1 supervisor and 10 dispatchers, animal shelter, which is 6 employees, and community services, which is 1. The detective lieutenant is responsible for the detective division, which is 6. The records division, which is 2, evidence and property, which is 1, and the victim coordinator, which is 1. Standalone, I was a patrol lieutenant in a previous job. That is a huge job in itself. There is so much that goes on with just the patrol division. The detective division is also pretty big, undertaking. The stuff that detectives and investigate are very important, to our community and victims. And having those leaders with these ancillary responsibilities that take away, it spreads them so thin that oftentimes things get missed. And, because there's just so much to keep track of. And I'll refer back to the AXON, our tasers. X26s that have been in the life, our newest 26s were purchased in 2011. They have a 5-year lifespan, so they've been out. And I think it's things like that get overlooked because the patrol lieutenant and the detective lieutenant have so much responsibility. So I'm asking for an FTE to hire an assistant chief to take some of those responsibilities off the lieutenant so they can concentrate on their divisions, which are important divisions. And he can manage, the dispatch center and some of the other things. With the restructuring with an assistant chief, I believe I would take 6 direct reports. I currently have 5 as the chief that are direct reports to me. Restructuring, I would have 6. The assistant chief would have 6. The patrol lieutenant would have 5. The detective lieutenant would have 6. Patrol sergeants would have 4 to 5 direct reports. Kennel supervisor would have 5, and then communications, she would have 10. That's still dispatchers. That's still quite a bit for her. But it spreads those responsibilities across the agency. And I think that would an assistant chief would allow me to be as a heads-up leader, meaning that would allow me to focus on the future, so I can position the agency effectively and address upcoming changes. 217, there's a Senate bill that's been introduced that's Senate Bill 2162. And it's concerning measures to reduce jail populations. I think we're going to need to pay attention to that as a community. I think there can be some adverse things that come out of that, and are going to need some attention for the agency and the community. The assistant chief can be a heads down manager. He can look at the operation of the agency and report to me while I'm looking out into the future and trying to guide the agency. He can be managing the day-to-day and keeping the agency successful on a day-to-day period. Adding the assistant chief of police, I'm not advocating my management or leadership responsibilities. What I'm doing is being forward-thinking, restructuring the agency to operate more efficiently by dispersing the management responsibilities to the leaders that I already have. Another thing that kind of got my attention as well is January. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm in the National Guard. I currently serve actively in the National Guard. My National Guard unit got activated to go to Washington, D.C. for the inauguration and provide security. I was tasked, actually come in and told John, I'm out of here for 3 weeks, maybe more, because I've been activated. Some things happened, I didn't have to go. Other people in my unit did. But having an assistant chief of police identifies a clear second in command. That identifies somebody beyond a reasonable doubt that John can go to, council can have questions for, in the event that I'm taken away. Because I'm currently in the National Guard, I have annual training that's 2 weeks every year that I'll be gone. And there's the potential for deployments worldwide, part of the I was deployed when I worked here before, I went to Iraq. And I was gone for 16 months. You know, although not optimal, but there's that responsibility, and it's something that I take serious. I love serving the community here as the chief of police, and I love serving the nation and the state as a National Guard member. So having that second in command not only gives you guys somebody to connect with in the event I'm absent, but it's consistency in my vision and mission and goals. They can carry those on, you know, while I'm gone. So, like I did in my memo to you, it does come at a cost. And again, based on the issues that were brought to my attention, and you know, looking at how the agency's being managed right now, I feel that sooner rather than later, it is best to get somebody in there. And so I would be asking again, in addition to my 2021 budget, and I know it's a big ask with these two programs, and I've talked to John about this, but when I took the position of chief, the budget process was kind of already built. I didn't have a chance to really evaluate the agency and plan for these things. So the budget was kind of set for me. And I had the opportunity to see these issues and be a part of that budget process. I would probably have passed then. But for assistant chief of police in 2021, I'd be asking for $131,174.12. And that's the salary for an assistant chief under pay grade 23 in the city. Computers and equipment, some office furniture, and then recurring annual salary from now on of $125,000, $647, less the merit increases from year to year. So, do you have any questions about my thoughts on the assistant chief?
I just have one. So we are a little bit into March. So I guess I have two. I'll start with the money part of it. The ask is for a full annual compensation. If this person were to be immediately hired, that would be 9.5 months. So that'd be $99,465. And then adding the 55 for equipment and such. Would you be amenable to changing that annual compensation to reflect what month of the fiscal year we're in?
Absolutely, and I think I prepared this. We talked about it for a little bit, and I think I prepared this in January, and I prepared it based off of 12 months of the year. Absolutely, I think we would adjust that based on when the individual started. If there's a recruiting process or something that takes us, you know, down the road a month or two, it would adjust that to take into consideration the months past.
Okay, great. And then that leads me to, I guess you mentioned a recruiting process. So do you have somebody in mind for this, to fill this position, potential position?
I do. I haven't been very open inside the agency. I didn't want to get any hopes up or anything, but I've talked to John. And I do have a couple of people that I would look at to offer it internally. That's a thing that is very important to me. If there's somebody within the agency that's qualified, that's where I want to go. I think, you know, as the chief of the CorePLUS Police Department, we need to offer our good people these promotions, and I think, you know, that just bids well for the city as well. If there's nobody qualified, then I reserve the right to seek somebody that is. That being said, I believe there's a couple of individuals in the agency that are qualified. However, I have not talked to them. I don't know if they would be interested. So.
If I could too, there's, I don't know whether it's just happenstance or what for the chief. Your normal jail budget is about $100,000 a year. And I think we've only used about 20,000 of it since the pandemic. I'm gonna throw something out that was gonna come to you later on in the year. We're looking, there's a new legislation that the chief referred to. There's existing legislation that is in place. It's $80 a day to put somebody in jail. It's not really worth it for the city to spend that money for the type of offenses we have, when we could move those offenses to county court and let the state pay. And so there would be some extra money coming into the chief's budget from not having to use jail. And so there was going to be a proposed ordinance sometime in June about eliminating jail as an offense. It's a hot topic depending on who you talk to, but it's not something that we need as an entity because it would be available to us through the state and the state paying for it instead of the city. So there is that little bit towards all the money he spent tonight, potential.
Yeah, that's correct. That's been budgeted, I think, annually for a while. And COVID has shown, with the closure of the jail has really reduced the number of people that the police department takes to jail. And so there's been cost savings. I believe there was some there last for 2020. And it looks like there's going to be some there now that possibly we could reallocate. I would caution and maybe wait until July or August to see what our rations look like before we do that, just to make sure. I don't foresee any mass arrests and chewing away at $108,000, $80 at a time, but I would rather be cautious and keep that, but I do have a good feeling that there's going to be a surplus in that line.
And you have office space for another person?
We do.
And then bouncing back to the AXON, would we need to make it 31 cameras? Or if this position does become, with the body camera and the taser already, those numbers already set, to be taken care of? Okay.
Yeah, I had, just thinking positively, I added that camera, just in case, and just as easy to take it away. And AXON provides an extra spare. So there will be 31 cameras. So what happens if a camera breaks? You take the spare, check it out to the officer, mail that camera back, AXON mails you the spare. So you always have one on hand. So.
Mr. Mayor, if there aren't any other questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve a new full-time FTE assistant chief for the police department that is not included in the 2021 budget.
Second.
More questions?
I have one quick question on
Okay,
that financial impact, where it shows in there, it says an increase of the 2012 budget.
Does it?
Oh,
Yeah, the budget effective immediately, initial amount of salary and benefits.
Yes, that's a typo. It should be 2021 this year.
Should we amend the motion? Have them correct.
when did this happen?
I don't think we need to adjust the motion. It's just in the fiscal impacts of the report.
Okay. We have motion on this item.
Yes. And a second.
And a second.
In a second.
Medina,
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Aubrey.
Aye.
Hawkins.
Aye.
Lucero.
Aye.
Lady.
Aye.
Honorable Mayor, Council, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is resolution number 7, series 2021. City Planner Viva Conley, good evening.
All right, good evening, council. I am going to turn my video off to save my poor internet here. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So we're looking at an amended plat in Southern Bluffs, lots 8 and 9, right off of 7th Street and Elway. The city of Cortez received an application from Rodney and Deborah Case to adjust the lot lines and consolidate these lots into one property. The 2 lots will now be one, lot 8A, and will be 16,500 square feet in size, more than double the minimum lot size for the manufactured housing zoning district. These lots are currently vacant. There's a utility easement that runs along the northern and eastern lot lines of the proposed lot, and there are no utility easements that run along the lot lines that need to be vacated. The access for this is proposed off of Elway. However, Mr. Case has left the owner an access off of 7th Street if the new owner chooses. According to our construction design manual, each lot can have 3 curb cuts. And it will be up to our public works director to determine how many curb cuts he'll allow off of 7th Street. So like all of our projects went out for review, there were no concerns. Our GIS coordinator did mention that the address will have to be changed, and it depends on where the main access for this property is. So if the house is facing Elway, it'll be addressed off of L, and if it's off of 7th Street, it'll be addressed off of 7th Street. Other than that, I don't believe there's any concerns for this amended plat. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Questions from council? Orly, do you have any questions?
I don't have any.
Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 7, series 2021, approving an amended plat of lots 8 and 9 of the Southern Bluff subdivision, second amended as submitted by owners Rodney and Deborah Case.
Second.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Aubrey.
Aye.
Hawkins.
Aye.
Lucero.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Lady.
Aye. Thank you. Next item under new business is item F, concerning the reopening of the city council after Dr. Aiken's recommendation. Robert, do you want to
Sure.
discuss this?
So we heard from Dr. Aiken in our workshop about options to safely reopen the chamber and some things that we can do that we can be accessible to the community and provide a safe environment for everyone. One of the things I wanted to check in with Councilman Orly Lucero is we have 6 members in the chamber at the moment, and it would be more accessible for the entire community if all of the, if we're going to allow the public back in, to have the entire council back in the chambers. After hearing Dr. Egan's report about what we can do safely and how we can provide reasonable accommodation for people that can't wear masks and things like that, Councilman Becerra, do you have any issues returning to the chamber?
I just want to listen to Dr. Aiken too, but what is the city going to do for, for the public? They're going to be setting them in separation on chairs, or the 6-foot separation and all that?
Well, I was gonna I wrote a motion while he was talking to put together the options to have us return the public to the chamber at a level appropriate to the state dial level, which currently would be 50%, with masks required in chamber, health screening at the building entrance, and a reasonable accommodation for those who cannot wear masks, such as an auxiliary room, face shields, or Zoom.
Robert, could I jump in here just a minute? There is a time limit.
Turn your mic on.
I'm sorry. He did set a time limit on time that a number of people could be in. Also, the ventilation system, which is eccentric, I think. And there were several things that he mentioned that, in addition to, there will be people that will come in with masks and pull them off. So there are some considerations and some ways that we need to come up with to ensure that people abide by the laws and we not get a huge amount of people in here, because they will be in here, they could be in here the full time, which could be what, over 2 hours. And I think that's a bit risky. So that would be, I think we should approach this with caution.
I think we need to find a way to be as accessible as possible. I think the state dial levels give us some guidance, and I think that as much as we follow that guidance, I think it's the best way to do it. I have concerns about us putting any additional restrictions on top of that state guidance, because this is a public meeting. It needs to be open to the public. It needs to be as accessible as reasonably possible, as well as be safe.
When were you thinking this would happen?
At the next meeting. We're in level blue. I feel if you look at the vaccination numbers in our community, especially after the Mountain View tribe was able to offer vaccines to large groups of the community, I think that we need to be taking steps to move towards being regular council chambers.
I like the idea of having an auxiliary room as well for the public, and then that way, depending on how many people show up, if we've got 2 options, that would spread out the people more. They wouldn't be able to come until 7:30. And there have been folks in the community who have offered to help us with taking temperatures at the door, writing down folks' names, enforcing mask wearing, as long as we, are very clear about the rules and that people are willing to abide by them, then they'll be able to be here with us. And if they can't, we have accommodations, and they can participate other ways.
Additionally, Dr. Aiken said that we could safely accommodate people in this space, within the limits that we're allotted for 90 to 120 minutes. So if we could open up the doors at like 8:30 or 8 o'clock, then we can somewhat limit the amount of time that people are spending inside council chambers and still give them the opportunity to provide comment.
If you're going to have rules, we probably need to formulate them before you have a meeting, so that they're known to the people. And I'm not saying for or against this, it's just if you're gonna enforce something, people need to know about it so they can make the decision to come or use Zoom, or they know what's going on. Or we'll have half the police force in here maybe be in enforcement. Not that the chief can't do it by himself, but you get a lot of people at the door contesting what you're saying. I think we need to put something out. Would be my only thought or recommendation, so that everybody knows what the game is when they come through the door and what the rules are. Opening time, closing time, whatever you want to do. I just think we need to publish it somehow before the meeting. And so
I think that's what the point of this discussion is.
Yes.
Could we publish it as, like, the rules to come to chamber as part of our agenda that's publicly published in for every meeting?
we can do that. Are we able to do it tonight and get it published, or do we need to set it on the agenda for the next meeting? Run by Dr. Aiken and make sure. I don't know. I'm just asking how you want to handle that.
I don't want to wait till the next meeting to figure out an actual plan. Like, if we have to set up another special meeting, then we need to do it. Like,
I'm just asking so we make sure, like I say, I want to make sure everybody knows what we're doing.
Well, we could include that. We could include that masks are required in the council chamber, and the capacity will be limited by the appropriate level of the state dial, and that we'll make reasonable accommodation beyond that, and then staff can work out the reasonable accommodation with your guidance, because
I think that works. Like I say, I just want to make sure we're as specific as we can be in what we're doing, so there's no problems. And then I think a couple of people, maybe 3 or 4, are having concerns about how this is going to work for them if they're here as council people. So I just want to make sure we don't go backwards.
In addition, I would like legal counsel about, Dr. Aiken brought up the idea that vaccinations are also making public meetings safer. And he spoke of a vaccination card as a sort of a passport. I don't know what kind of legal ramifications are behind that. If you could do further research, or if you maybe know right now.
Nobody's really, I haven't seen anything that said they're legal or they're illegal, but I understand different places have been requiring them for you to go places perhaps. I've seen them, there was talk at some of the resorts that you had to have a vaccination card in order to go to some of the ski areas. So I think if council were to say that, people with vaccination can do certain things that other people can't, I don't think there's a problem there, but I'm a little unclear. I didn't hear him say that the people that were vaccinated, and I might have missed it, shouldn't wear masks or shouldn't take the same safety precautions as some of the other people. And so I don't know if it really matters whether you have a vaccination card or not.
I think he recommended still requiring masks.
Yes, even though you're vaccinated.
I think we would have to still require masks. I also don't think we should do a vaccination passport. This isn't a ski area or a resort. This is a critical public meeting.
And that conversation was in regards to the annex area being available for folks who, this is what he referenced, for folks who didn't want to abide by the recommendations of what the chambers need to be held to. So I was just bringing that up as something that he offered as a solution.
As well as Zoom, this will still continue to be available. The YouTube feed will still continue to be available.
Okay, what if we decide on a hard time for the public to be here? We open the doors at 8 p.m. because we know we're not going to get to public comment before then. And then we try to keep the meeting by 9:30, like have public comment by 9:30. So then that's at 90 minutes. max that people are in the room.
You can't do
We can't,
I was just gonna suggest that we open the chamber for the regular meeting, 7:30, it's 9:30-ish now. This has been a longer meeting than our normal regular meetings. I think we could do some structural things where if we had an executive session, we could make sure that we did that last, so we close the rest of the chamber off and everyone can leave. And people aren't having to wait around. Yeah.
We could, there were some reasons in the past why this got moved, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but we could put citizens' comment back in the beginning and strictly enforce the rule that it's 4 minutes. Caution council not to get into a dialogue, because that's not the purpose of the comment, it's just to hear what people have to say. And that's what the biggest control there is, if you folks can, and it's natural to want to ask some questions, but if we can limit the dialogue, you could do that up front, and then you would be able to, new business would be the last place, Linda, where we would have public hearings.
We don't have public hearings in new business, it's only in public hearing session.
Okay, but I mean, we could make sure that those things where the public might want to speak were done earlier in the meeting rather than later. And get people in and out quicker that way. Load the front end of the meeting with public participation.
could we cap the amount of time that public participation or public comment is allowed?
We could do it, except when, like with the license requirement, the marijuana license, if people had showed up, they're testifying, they're not calling. They're sworn and they're giving evidence. When it's quasi judicial, you can't really limit people on their presentations. They need to put on whatever evidence they feel they need to put on.
In addition to just hearing the public comment in person, one of the issues that at least I'm trying to address is that there's definitely people in this community that Zoom and YouTube and internet service is not accessible to. So to me, opening the full regular meeting would be the best option. Provide the most accessible, reasonable accommodation. I think with the positive steps going forward in the community with vaccination, I think we heard from our public health expert that we can do this safely and reasonably.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that he said we could do that safely. Did I miss something?
He said with masks and 6 feet distancing.
And with being in blue on the dial.
And then something about ventilation system requirements as well.
He suggested we could get fans for the door to pull the air in and then out through a different one.
And the 6 feet, just get rid of a bunch of chairs and not leave it in here and space them out. It's, there's ways to do it, but it's up to you folks to give us direction.
Mayor, I have a couple of comments if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
First of all, Dr. Bacon's comment about we are inoculating a lot of people is very true, but a lot of those people only got one shot. I don't get another shot until the end of April, and it won't be in effect until the middle of May. I'm a little concerned about this room being packed with people who are not inoculated and spreading their germs. I had a comment or discussion with a lady today about an incident that happened going into the rec center, and she kept telling me that she's perfectly healthy and she doesn't need a wear mask or get a temperature check. And I said, well, you don't really know whether it's safe or not because you haven't been tested. And so I'm not so sure you are healthy, and I have to worry about everybody else in the rec center besides just you. So one of my questions is, if you're going to open it up, can the staff have the option to do Zoom rather than be in this room?
And in addition, would that also be able to apply to the council members?
Legally, it's up to you folks, but at this point in time, because of the emergency, Zoom meetings and participation has been declared to be okay. The council would have to change that with a vote to require everybody to come back into the room. And that's that's your call. If you're,
So,
there's no provision in the charter that I think John and I were talking about today. There's no provision to do anything to somebody who doesn't attend, in other words, remove them or things like that. So the issue of personal safety, if you didn't show up, you might lose your money. That's about, I think money is tied to appearance. Right now it's not because of the state of emergency, which I don't know how much longer is going to be in effect or not. It's going to kind of depend on the state. Right now, if we weren't in a state of emergency, no Zoom, no whatever, except maybe for staff, if you wanted to do it that way. Doing Zoom for staff would also reduce the number of people in the room, which would, be a safety facet. So I think that's a good idea. But if council people decided they felt unsafe and didn't want to go, I got to tell you, I don't think there's anything we could, I shouldn't say we, that could be done to them for not appearing other than not giving them their money if you went away from Zoom meetings.
Well, and also the fact that we're going in the right direction is an indication that we're doing something right. But if we throw caution to the wind, there's no reason it can't surge again. And that is
I wouldn't say we're throwing caution to the wind. We'll always require masks in this room and limit the capacity. But I think, being as, because the point is to be accessible to the public, but I'm fine with, like, Zoom is always going to be an option until basically the declaration of emergency is gone.
One of the ideas that was brought up was having public citizen participation early on. We could, in order to keep it from dragging out time-wise, we could better enforce the time limit. Maybe perhaps have one of the council persons with their timekeeper and announce when 3.5 minutes is up to give the speaker time to finish up their comment. So they could just have their 4 minutes, and just as a reminder not to extend their citizen participation time, in terms of efficiency of time and time spent in the chambers.
Then they can't give their time to somebody else. Right. And a couple little things like that, and get them published and get them in.
So speaking of citizen comment, the main purpose of wearing a mask is to not aerosolize, and the habit of pulling masks down to speak. I would like to know how we would legally be able to hold somebody to speaking during citizen comment and keeping their mask up.
I think you can say it. One of the situations I've run across, and this is from appearing in court with masks, some judges want you to take them down because the systems don't pick up what's being said clearly. The tape is garbled. Some systems don't seem to have a problem with it, and that's why I put mine down as from court. And I apologize, I don't know how it's recording or not. Some of you sound a little muffled over here. Some of you don't. It's just the person. But we can tell them to leave their masks up, that's not a problem. But we need to make sure all these rules are on a piece of paper and published and approved by you folks before they're implemented, so everybody knows what they gotta do when they come through the door. We can do pretty much what you want as far as rules and regulations in this room. It's your room, it's your house. And so that's what, it's just, how do we get that information out to the public? And then, the enforcement is situational.
Councilman Lucero, do you have any more input?
Wally, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm here. I'm just gonna say, still,
You have thoughts on this?
I was gonna say, I'm still waiting for my shots. I mean, I got my first shot, then the other shot first before I do anything else anyway myself, so.
Would you feel comfortable after you get your second shot, Orly?
I like to have all my shots before I do anything else, personally.
Like this conversation's getting anywhere. Well, I say we make a plan and have it be based on the dial, because the whole point of the state's dial is how to show what we can safely do. And I feel like the things we're suggesting are even still more restrictive than what the blue dial allows. So I think we're within the means of being safe and being accommodating, and we can make it flexible so that if, our caseload goes up or we shift on the dial again, we can scale things down or shut things down. But I think we need to start making those moves.
No, I do too. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to open council chambers to the public at a capacity appropriate to the state dial level, with masks required in chambers, health screening at the building entrance, and reasonable accommodation for those who cannot wear masks.
Staff or.
And staff and free staff up to be here in person or in Zoom, depending on your preference.
Was there also the condition people wear their masks at all times?
Yes, masks are required in chambers at all times.
Second.
Can we put increased ventilation efforts?
I don't know what we need to do with the ventilation.
Just get something that's.
To say, do we need to have a check to make sure it's adequate, so like this, to make sure it's operating and.
My plan, it's not on right now. My plan is, I think it's on a computer system. So I need to check and see if we can, on Tuesdays, jack it up till 10 o'clock to operate, to keep those air circulating. Right now, it always shuts down about 4:30, so I'll check into whether we can keep it on.
Thank you. It seems pretty still in here, so I bring it up. Thank you, John.
Just explain why it gets so hot in here in the summer and the evening, and shut it off so you guys don't stay late.
Are we ready for a vote? Okay. Yelsey?
Aye.
Dobry?
Aye.
Medina?
Aye.
Lucero?
Nay.
Rainey?
Nay.
Evans?
Nay.
Lady?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-3.
And then we did the starting motion types of rules and regulations and get it circulated. So we get that done. So we can advance those, put it on our website and slow it down.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is citizen participation. Are there any citizens out there that would like to participate?
Yeah, we two hands. Sherry Simmons.
Okay, let's see. Good evening, Sherry Simmons. Do you have a comment?
Mute yourself.
Sherry?
Just to unmute yourself.
I didn't hear that.
Sherry, do you want to unmute yourself?
Go ahead.
Yes, thanks for taking my call. I'd like to start off with a couple of things that I just heard that was a little disturbing. That you could make rules because that room is yours. I'd like to remind you that that room belongs to the people. And the things that you're talking about are not laws.
Thank you. Any other comments?
They leave it up to the people to make that choice for themselves. There hasn't been any problem that I'm aware of since they've been doing that. I was there this morning. There was probably 50 people in the room. Some decided not to sit by each other's. Some had masks, some didn't. So you might want to just maybe take a look at what they're doing because it seems to be working just fine. I'd also like to just kind of quickly go over the COVID and what it's done to this community and to this nation. The mandates that has hurt our businesses and the closures and the income and the social distancing and the school closures has caused crime in some of the cities to increase 91%. Suicides are at an all-time high. Domestic violence and child abuse is just soaring. There's studies and graphs and maps all about the COVID, but not about the damage and some of the irreversible damage that it does. It wasn't even brought in. Excuse me if I didn't hear it. It's very hard to hear on the Zoom, by the way. But I didn't hear anybody talking about the other effects of what the regulations are doing to our community. The council's duties are to make informed business decisions which affects our city. It's not to make personal decisions for the people, nor to make decisions on how the public is involved. We are the people. We are supposed to be working together with you, and you decide how we can come, when we can come, who can come, how many can come. That's not really right. That is not our freedoms and our liberties that this country was built on. The fair and just operation for this town and for the council would be for everyone to make their own decision. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you want to stay home, stay home. If you want to go to a restaurant that only serves 25% and you feel better there, then do that. If you don't care, then you need to go to the restaurant of your choice. These things that you're doing is hurting the community. I don't know how many businesses we've lost here. Has anybody in the council looked into that? How many of our businesses have closed? I doubt it. So I'm calling you to open up the council, open it up to the public, let them to make the decisions on how, when, and where they want to do this. It's their choice, not yours. And if you are fearful, I'm sorry that you are, but if you are, then you need to step down and put somebody in your seat that isn't afraid. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Next person. Are there any other hands?
If any Gear was the next one who had their hand raised. If you want them to talk.
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised for citizen participation.
Excuse me. Tiffany Gear had her hand raised. She would like her to talk. I accidentally lowered her hand and lowering Sherry Simmons.
I saw Tiffany Gear's hand was raised before, but whoever's talking right now, it's really hard to hear you.
This is Kyle. I accidentally lowered Tiffany's hand, lowering Sherry Simmons' hand. Should I let Tiffany talk?
Okay, yes, Kyle, if you can move Tiffany to the panelist so that we can hear her public comment.
Okay, she can talk now.
Okay, Tiffany, can you hear?
Tiffany, you have to unmute yourself.
Tiffany, can you please unmute yourself?
Maybe she didn't have a comment.
Tiffany, can you hear? Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Okay, I unmuted myself to begin with. So I have some notes and I'm going to move through them pretty fast. First of all, I want to thank the city council members who are advocating for accountability and transparency in meeting in person. Having attended many Zoom meetings this way, I would ask that the city council members who speak, as Mike Green does, announce who you are. We cannot see you, and with the masks, we can barely understand what you're saying. I have some statements I would like to make. As I was previously informed, this is not a time for inquisition. When do we stop living under a tyranny? When do our elected officials start serving our whole community and the small businesses and support a reopen and freedom of choice? When will we start recognizing people's freedom and right to choose? If you are safer at home, stay at home. Recognize the ADA laws and do not shame or shun people who are not fitting the agenda for CDHPE. Do you recognize those that have already had COVID? I did not hear Dr. Aiken talk about that. If you have already had COVID, you cannot spread COVID to anybody else. I want to remind everybody in our council and everybody listening, and yes, David Rainey, this means you, mandates are not law. They are suggestions. And in touching on what Dr. Aiken said, running a fever per our health department, 101.4 is the exclusion number. Our city hall is public property paid by taxpayers. Vaccination is a choice. It should never be used as a passport. If it is a vaccine, such as measles, mumps, and rubella, why are people told they need to continue to wear a mask? I want to share some facts that I found. Under WHO, that you can research for yourself on the internet. It states, for healthy people, people wear a mask only if you are caring for a person suspected of COVID-19 infection. Medical news today, symptoms of either COVID-19 or flu can be mild, severe, or rarely fatal. It goes on to say healthcare workers use professional grade N95 face masks that fit tightly to protect themselves against infection. It goes on to say that SARS-CoV-2 is just a mutated form of a cold. COVID is a large family. Each has spiky proteins on their surface. Some use humans as their primary hosts and cause the common cold. This venue, Amy Hutchkins, also holds facts on aerosolate, as you stated, and the cloth masks do not work for aerosolate. You can research it yourself.
What my question is what are we hiding behind? Executive orders? Are executive orders being used to silence the public? Are executive orders used to stifle the middle class and to create conformity? All of city council needs to start responding to emails from the public. We all want to know why council states what we have a chance to open dialogue. When are we supposed to understand your choices? And therefore, how are you elected officials to understand this community without an open dialogue? No emails are responded to. Phone calls are only returned by our mayor. We are not allowed to ask questions of our city council, and we are now allowed to be in chambers. How are you supposed to understand where your community is coming from that you're elected to represent? And how are we supposed to understand where your decisions are coming from when there is no open dialogue? It goes back to the basics of
Thank
what.
you for your comments, Tiffany. Your time is up. We'll take that into consideration. Thank you. Okay, are there any more citizen participation voices?
Just Tiffany's hand.
Hmm?
Tiffany has her hand up again. Yeah. Mindy Nelson.
Mindy Nelson? Mindy? Unmute yourself, Mindy.
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
Okay, it just sounds like to me that you guys aren't listening, and you need to be listening. This is about us, we the people. This isn't about you. You were elected officials. You need to pay attention. What happened to the first 4 minutes of all of this, of the comment? There's always been the comment has always been at the beginning of the meeting. Why did you cut that out? You guys are silencing us. This isn't fair. You need to open it up to the public. When you're talking about these masks, you guys are afraid. Again, what are you hiding behind? If you can't come out in public, you need to step down and get somebody in that chambers that is not scared to present themselves to represent this community.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other hands up?
Just Tiffany's. Yeah, I don't see any other.
Okay. Okay, we've completed the citizen participation part of the agenda. City attorney's report, none. Nothing for the city manager? No, sir. City council committee reports?
I don't have a committee report, but I do have a comment. Unless somebody else has a committee report that wants to go first.
I just have the workshop report.
Okay, I just wanted to, personally, acknowledge again our healthcare system in the community for getting vaccines out. I wanted to especially recognize the Mountain Tribe for opening up their vaccines to all adults in Montezuma County. So I just wanted to put that on the record. Big thank you to them. Big thank you to all of our healthcare providers. We are upwards, like Dr. Aiken said earlier today, we are upwards of 10,000 vaccines. And that's a really huge feat, and that takes a lot of dedicated people putting a lot of time, and honestly a lot of volunteers. So a big huge thank you to the volunteers as well.
Thank you. Mayor's report on the workshop. Workshop is held, it's a hybrid meeting, in person, virtual contact by Zoom. We had a consultation with Dr. Aiken on safe reopening of council meetings to the public. We had an update on the outdoor pool plans. We had an executive session regarding Water 101. And that's basically it. If there's no other comments or questions, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.